wish that the weather forecasts could be a little more accurate than they are. Last weekend, I was going to a state park a ways away, and there was 0% chance of snow. And I encountered blowing snow and limited visibility. I would like to know ahead of time if I'm gonna, I might have still gone, but I'd like to psychologically prepare for those driving conditions. Or, maybe the weather forecast was accurate for this morning and I just didn't look it up, but I would have liked to know that it was going to be 1 degree this morning. I probably would have worn another layer of clothes when I went outside, because I was not quite prepared. I was prepared for 20 or 30 degrees, but not 1. More crucially, I would like someone, I don't know if it's a weather forecaster or who it would be, but I would like somebody to be able to accurately predict when and where a wildfire is going to move. I would like us to be able to know that, and so people would have enough time to get out of harm's way. Anybody with me? Anybody else wish that we could predict these things a little better than we do? Yeah. I think this desire of wanting to know what the future holds is pretty common. Our worry about what is to come keeps some of us up at night, and it keeps psychics in business. Many of us, I think, want certainty. We want assurances that our democracy will survive, that global warming won't be too bad, that our children will be happy, that we won't lose our job, that war can be averted, that we won't run out of money before we die, that we will stay healthy or be healed, that we will go to heaven, that everything will be okay. Who wants all those assurances? Wouldn't that be great if we just could know? More often than not, certainty is not available to us. We are left to live with questions, with unknowns, with an incomplete story. And that can cause a lot of anxiety. Some of us spend a lot of time guessing what will happen, planning for what might happen, or even trying to control what will happen. Someone once told me when I was in the midst of one of these exercises of trying to predict and manipulate my life and to be a certain way, they told me point blank that humans were not created to know the future. Our brains simply don't work that way. We are not created to know what will happen. So we can try, right? And we do try to foresee the future, but we'll never know for sure. The thing is, if we want certainty enough, if we're anxious enough that we just have to have certainty, we will find it. Or we will at least find what appears and looks like certainty, without bothering to ask if it's true or not. We will always be able to find someone who will say what we want to hear. Beware, says Jesus. Beware that no one leads you astray. He directs this warning to the disciples who want to know. They want to know when the temple will be destroyed. They want to know what will be the signs that it is about to happen. They are wanting certainty in the face of confusing and uncertain times. Boy, they would love Jack Van Impe. Have any of you watched Jack Van Impe? No, I see a lot of blank looks, but I don't. Maybe you're just too tired to react. He is in the business, he's a televangelist. He's in the business of predicting the end times. And he is always so certain of what the signs are and what is going on in that realm. It is normal to want to know. It's part, I think, of our makeup as human beings. And we are told to beware of where our discomfort with the unknown can lead us. So I'm wondering this morning how you live with uncertainty and questions. How do you live in that space? And this is like our daily reality, right? How do you live with that without grabbing for certainty that is false? I have two kind of pieces of wisdom that I've gathered this week that point to parts of the answer, or parts of an answer to that. But I think that you probably hold parts of the answers too. So you can be talking with one another afterwards maybe about how you live with uncertainty without grabbing for false certainty. But here's what a couple pieces I came up with this week. One of them is that living with uncertainty requires courage. Theologian David Lose writes this very well. He says, "The antidote to uncertainty, it turns out, isn't certainty, but courage. And the best response to insecurity is the confidence that comes from knowing that God esteems you worthy of dignity, honor, and love." So the antidote to uncertainty is not certainty, but courage. Another piece of this, I think, is prayer. And I found another great quote by Henry Nouwen that captures this. He says, "Prayer, therefore, is a great adventure because the God with whom we enter into a new relationship is greater than we are and defies all our calculations and predictions. The movement from illusion to prayer is hard to make because it leads us from false certainties to true uncertainties, from an easy support system to risky surrender, from the many safe gods to the God whose love has no limits." So prayer helps us negotiate and move from false certainties, which you'll find everywhere, right, to true uncertainties. My life has included a lot of uncertainty. I think I've had more than my fair share of uncertainty. I seem to be one of those people who is always asking questions, always growing and changing. My income has never been the same 2 consecutive years of my life. Like, I have never known. This year is kind of weird for me. When people say, "When you're here next year," and I'm like, whoa, I could be here next year. It's just foreign to me to have that kind of certainty. And in the past 22 months, so less than 2 years, I have lived in 7 different places. So uncertainty has just been my bread and butter, it seems. And in the midst of all that change, I have wanted to know, like I know this at a gut level, I have wanted to know how it all will end. I want assurances that it's all going to be okay, right? Not just that, but I want to know the specifics of how it's going to be okay. I want to hear the happy ending of the story when I'm in the middle or even the beginning of the story. But I have come to realize that certainty is not the antidote. It's not the cure for what I experience, for that anxiety. Becoming comfortable with the uncertainty is part of it, but courage is part of it. It takes a lot of courage to live a life of faith. When you think about it, it makes sense, right? It takes a lot of courage to live a life of faith. And I have learned to live a little more gracefully with the true uncertainties of life. The risky surrender that is asked of me. And the God who continually encourages me, as Jesus does in our gospel reading for today, to not be alarmed. And I have learned a little bit, I don't claim mastery, but I have learned a little bit what it means to trust. That all will be well, no matter what happens. Amen.